Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the Jeffries Network on OpenTTD. Now today's episode, it is Monday, as we already know. Today's episode is going to be split into two parts. The first part is going to be a live version, like we've got here. You see, moving the mouse around, it's all live. The second part is going to be a time-lapse. The reason the second part is going to be a time-lapse is because quite a lot of building work is going to be taking place. And I've got some positive feedback on the way that I'm doing time lapses now, so I will keep with it. If people like me doing it, I might as well stick with it. Otherwise, what's the point if I'm not keeping people happy? Okay, so today we are going to do the following. We are going to rebuild GSMI. We might also do a little bit of rebuilding work over at GSP as well. Basically, these platforms have to be at least 6 tiles long, and they also need to be a little bit tidier. I think St. Michael is the only station really that doesn't have a proper station building on it either. St. Peter kind of doesn't, but it has these shelters here which sort of count. If you head over here to GSMA, we've got the train sheds and this big glass box. I don't really know what you'd call it. GST has these platform shelters which again sort of count. GSJ, again with the train sheds. I always forget that GST and GSJ are basically in a straight line. I always think GSJ is over here for some reason. Bartholomew, where are we over here, has the 2 modern buildings, and then GSG is just way OP, let's say. And then GSC, God, I forgot about GSC. We have this nice little station here as well. This is based on... what's it based on? I nearly said Amsterdam Central, but I don't think that's right. It's that one, isn't it? Delft. Yes, Amsterdam Central is this one. The big one, which we have. Oh, we don't have over here actually. We have another Delft over here. I might replace that then. Also, Gert has been complimenting my Dutch pronunciation. I'm not sure whether he's poking fun or not. Don't worry, I don't mind if you are poking fun. I try and get pronunciation right. I can't guarantee I get it right all the time. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. I have one of the accents as well, where even if I am speaking French or Spanish, I still sound like I'm speaking English. It's just one of those things. Anyway, we're going to rebuild GSMI to make it look a little bit nicer. These 4-track station platforms here, I might leave. I think it's a little bit impossible to move that, because then you have to move the metro station, and then loads of other stuff gets moved out of place. So I might just leave that bit as is, but the rest, first things first, it all needs to be electrified. Second things second, it all needs to be rebuilt so it looks a little bit nicer. And the way I'm going to do that is getting rid of pretty much all the stuff that we had there. All of it gone, kaput. And then we're going to snip that there, and we're also going to snip this here, because we don't need it. Might as well use all this for actual station growth. With that in mind, what I might do is Dutch platforms. Where are we? Here. I'm going to redo this platform like so, and then buffer stops. I'm going to put the full wraparound buffer stop, that one. So this platform here is isolated, it's part of its own little thing, and then the rest of the station will be rebuilt. So let's get on with that, shall we? Like that. Actually, these ones, yeah, these ones I'm going to go back to using this. Like that. Hang on a second, let me just shut my door because people are talking outside. There we go. Subtle message to them not to talk whilst I'm recording, because I do ask them nicely, but there you go. CTAs, always want some CTAs. Some station signs, they're always important. It's nice to know where you are. And then I want to go with something a bit grander than just the modern type of shelters. So we'll go for something a bit more like this. As I say, this is an electrified line. I've also given it a name. This main line will be called the Western Reaches line. I can hear the groans already. Some people going, what the hell does that mean? It means what it means, effectively. In England, we have the Great Western Main Line. We have the Great Eastern Main Line, stuff like that. This is the Western Reaches line. It stretches from the centre of the... Well, this isn't the centre of the map. As we found out a few episodes ago, this is nowhere near the centre of the map. But if it was the centre of the map, it would stretch from the centre of the map out to the west. And onwards. It reaches out to the west. So we got the Great Western Main Line, comes out of GSP right next door. These are not connected stations as well. That's always something worth remembering. In the previous map, they were connected. This time round, they are not connected stations. Although, there might be some freight platforms that I build in this little gap here that all link up to both tracks. Therefore, 2 might be for GSP, 2 might be for GSMI. But we'll have to see with that, because again, I'm not 100% sure exactly how I'm going to do it just yet. I was talking about we needed Amsterdam Central. Let's put it across the back here. Like that. There we are. That looks very nice. And then some little sextants either side. What else? If I do that and that, might as well do that and that then as well. There we go. So that looks quite good, I suppose. It's rebuilt, that's the main thing. Each platform is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long, which is what we wanted. Rebuild GSMI to have platform lengths at least 6 tiles long. In the future we might extend it out a little bit more, but right now 6 tiles long. Now, one of the reasons I'm splitting this episode up is it's very hot today, and my desktop has been overheating a lot as of late. So there's a very good chance that even this bit of me recording could end up with an overheat. It's not sounding too clever. It feels quite cool at the moment, but it could heat up at any given moment, and then kaput, that's it. But we'll have to wait and see on that, won't we? What I am going to do is electrify all of this depot section here, because of course we need it to be electrified. There we go. And now we move on to the second part of today's episode. So that was quite easy actually, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So the second part, we're still in the live section. The second part is to plan the main line out of GSMI via Renfingfield. Now, here is where I have to be a little bit honest with you guys. I don't actually know where Renfingfield is. I wrote this episode plan quite a long time ago. So the first thing we're going to have to do is find Renfingfield. Oh, there's Renfingfield. Well, that wasn't too hard, was it? So I think we're going to skirt around the north side of Renfingfield. I can see why I decided that the main line needs to go via Renfingfield. So here's the Great Western Main Line, and you can see here it starts turning south. I think if I build a big station here, we could actually have a link line between Great Winfield and Renfingfield. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not going to put any guarantees on that. But what I am going to do is start building out this main line. So, or plan it out, I should say. So we're going to go up the north side of Carnwell. And then we're going to go up via this bit here, down via Drunston, through Bendinghead, and then here we're going to run very close to the Western Main Line, and then at this point we're going to turn north. We're going to go via the south end of Truxton, and then we're going to hit Renfingfield. From Renfingfield we're going to continue out to the west, up this way. Now again, I don't want to go through the big hill if I can help it. I want to go round the big hill. So it makes sense that we're going to follow this little valley like this. Definitely want a station there. That could be a nice junction station. Keep to the south here. And as I say, this is the Western Reaches main line. So even once we reach the west coast, this line is not finished. It's going to continue up the western side of the map. Right the way up. So we're going to follow the coastal road essentially. All the way up here, and it's going to join up with the Great Western, the Northwest main line. Here. Right up in the top corner. But we're not done there either. Because from here, there's going to be a big triangular junction. This is actually going to come down this way as well. And we're going to head this way down the map. Nice little land bridge we can have here. I feel like we need a big town or city on here as well. That would really look good. And there's going to be a connection there. We're going to keep following this, and there's going to be another connection there. And again, even as I'm saying this, another connection there. And then even from there we might continue going further down. Right, so that's this line essentially planned out. What I'm going to do, I might as well build this bit on camera in front of everybody, because I might do better if I'm talking out loud. I mean, I talk out loud to myself whilst I build these things anyway, so I must sound like a right lunatic, but sometimes it helps when you're building if you have an audience to talk to and sort of talk through your thought plans, because then you yourself can hear if you're saying something that sounds really dumb, and then you don't do it, essentially. So here is Renfingfield. I want to build the main station in Renfingfield lower than the city itself. And the reason I want to do that is so we have like a bit of like an Edinburgh Waverley going on, where the station itself is built at a lower level than the city. And that's it really. That's the only comparisons you can make, I suppose. But around here is going to be the site of the station. Maybe over here actually. Each one is going to be at least 8 tiles, like that. Actually, that's really stupid. Why am I saying these things? 7 tiles. We'll do that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Something like this, maybe. Now I kind of want the inner platforms to be terminus platforms for trains to and from GSMI. Also for trains to and from the west. This is going to be... We've got Fort Flunwood, which is it Fort Flunwood? Let me check that. Fort Flunwood. Yeah, Fort Flunwood. Which I compared to Reading. This is going to be like Reading as well. It's going to be a mix between Reading and Crewe, perhaps. So we're going to have all these platforms, and then they're all obviously going to connect up over here somewhere. Something like this, maybe. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the 4 main lines like that. So if we have the center... How long would this tunnel be, by the way, if I built it? 204 tiles. Well, we're obviously not going to build it that long. If we have the centre platforms as terminus platforms, but act as through platforms, kind of like Birmingham New Street. Maybe that's the comparison I should be going with. Birmingham New Street. That's quite a good comparison to have. Back in the day, that probably would have been seen as an insult, but not anymore. Birmingham New Street's quite a nice station these days. They've done a really good job with it, Network Rail. Cost an absolute fortune to do, but I'd say if it ends up with turning one of the rubbishest stations in the country into one of the best, I would say it's money well spent, in my personal opinion. I'm sure there's people out there that would disagree, but this wouldn't be YouTube if people didn't disagree with each other, would it? Right. Let's get these connections done like this, and then we're going to go this way. And in a minute, almost seamlessly, we're going to transition into a time-lapse. And I might not even tell you when that's going to be, so you'll just notice the footage suddenly start speeding up, and I'll start talking to you from a different period of time. That does happen. You know, I might as well do that for fun sometimes. Maybe not quite yet, though. So as I say, the center platforms are going to be terminating platforms. All platforms technically are going to be terminating ones, but those are the ones that are really going to be used. If you look at Birmingham New Street Station, you'll see that there's only one bay platform in the entirety of Birmingham New Street Station. The rest of it is all made up of through platforms that are split into two parts, A and B. 4C is the only bay platform in the entire station. And yet each section, A and B, is treated as its own separate platform. So there are technically 25 platforms at Birmingham New Street. And along with the whole ABC principle, there are through trains that go through, so the Pendolinos take up the entirety of the platform, I believe, so they take up sections A and B. But the ones that don't, they can be terminating services, but they will use those through platform. It's very confusing to try and explain. You guys know what I mean though, right? What? Oh. Guess who's an idiot? Guess who did this without doing the old press and hold control? Renfingfield Valley, which is not going to be the name of this station. We will rename it Renfingfield something or other. Name suggestions. I keep nagging people about naming suggestions. There's only one person at the moment who's actually naming things. There was also someone recently who asked me if I wanted conversation topics. I said yes, and I'm still waiting for those conversation topics. So I don't know whether it was just a general question or, you know, whether that something has happened since then. I don't know. What I will say though is conversation topics, more than welcome. If it's something that requires a debate, I prefer not to go down that route, but I have said in the past that I played devil's advocate in these videos. I don't particularly believe in one argument above another, but I'll always present the opposite argument. So if there's any conversation topics out there you want me to discuss in videos, go for it. Leave them in the comment section down below. If someone says something in the comment section that you perhaps don't necessarily agree with, you are free to argue against it. Don't be offensive, don't be anything stupid like that, because you will get banned. If you are extremely offensive, you'll definitely get banned. You'll never be allowed to comment on my channel again. But if you say something that's a little bit off kilter, then you probably get a warning. But I don't want to be talking about that. That's really negative. I can see why that would put people off. But yeah, don't be nasty to people, is what I will say. Okay. That's a really stupid name. I was gonna, like, when Reading was first opened, what is now Reading Station was first opened, for a while it was called Reading General, because it was the main station in Reading. I kind of liked that idea and I wanted to implement that into this, but this is the Western Reaches line, so calling it Renfingfield Western doesn't sound right because it's built to the north of the city. But I suppose you can't help geography. If you look at Canterbury's a good example of this. Canterbury West Station is not west of Canterbury East Station, it's actually to the north of it. So Lordy knows why they decided to call them East and West. Because I don't even think Canterbury West or East are built to the west or the east of Canterbury. It doesn't really make much sense. The naming system of some of these stations has always been a little bit weird for my liking. But what can you do? Right, I'm going to cut this back here as well, so that we end up with something very similar over there. The idea is this whole station is essentially going to be built in a trench with the city growing either side of it. Renfingfield, I think, it's got 7,000 people living here already. This is a big city. It's very much worth continuing it as a big city, kind of like what we did with Dartbourne in the old map. I think that system worked very well. I think a lot of people liked the way that we built Dartbourne. It had its own tram system, although I would say the tram system was very badly built. I didn't do a very good job with that, let's say, but the rest of Dartbourne was okay. It had its own bus station. It had quite a few different rail routes going in and out of it in the end. Probably another reason why the game ended up so laggy is because the number of external routes we had going just through Dartbourne. We really liked to utilise Dartbourne. I do get a bit like that at times. I build something I like and then I get very biased towards it. Dartbourne was most definitely one of those examples. I was very fond of the way I built Dartbourne, so therefore Dartbourne became the second favoured city outside of Guard City. But there you go. Right. We're actually, what I was leading with that is, we're going to have a lot of towns and cities like Dartbourne on this new map, where there's going to be loads and loads and loads of sort of second capital cities, if you like. Like Birmingham is Britain's second city. It's the second largest. It's also the city that would be the capital if anything ever happened to London. And you can sort of see why, because it is a big city. Alright, we're going to dig this out a little bit, and we're going to dig this out quite a lot. And then we're going to go this way a little bit. And then we're going to continue to dig this out a little bit more. Like that. We're then going to cut this back. We're then going to cut this back. And that's all going to be lowered down like that. And there we go. So that's where that station's going to go. In this little trench. I'll rebuild the water on a bridge over there. I think it'll be our first case of rail going underwater if we do that, which would be quite cool, quite unique. Doesn't happen very often in the world. There is a London Underground station, and I'm fighting to remember which one it is. I think it might be High Street, Kensington, where the underground tracks, there's like a metal pipe that runs across the top of the tracks. That's a river. When they were building the underground, that river was in the way, so they just put it in a pipe above the tracks instead, which I think is very Londonist the way they decided to do that. Like, oh, that's in the way. Well, we could just move it, or you know, we could just stick it in a pipe above the tracks. I would have loved to have been in that meeting when whoever was in charge of the project sort of pitched that idea to the stakeholders. We're going to re-divert a river over the top of the railway. Just to see whether they all agreed with him immediately, or whether there was some convincing required. I'd like to think there was some convincing required, but you never quite know with these things. The whole concept of building an underground railway was quite bizarre. So I imagine at this point they just sort of agreed with whatever the engineers said. Right, I realise now I'm getting into the point where we should be in time-lapse mode. So let's do that. Let's go into time-lapse mode. We're going to leave the live action stuff here. We're going to speed up the footage. We're going to start some music if music was not already playing. I'm going to switch my fan on whilst I'm building this, which would be very nice. And then I'll do some post-commentary over the top. So, here we go, guys. We're going to build this main line. Alright everyone, I am back. We are here in time-lapse mode. The music has well and truly started, and you can see we are well underway with building this new main line. Now whilst this is going on, I just want to have a quick chat with you guys about our today's conversation topic, because I haven't actually mentioned it properly yet, but it is this: station improvements in London. I mentioned this in the last episode. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it in today's episode. So in front of me I have 2 copies of the Railway magazine. I strongly suggest, if you aren't already subscribed to this magazine, that you look into at least getting some copies of it throughout the year, because it is full of really useful information about the rail system. You know, even down to little things like it tells you when certain parts of the London Underground or other parts of the national network are going to be closed down for work being done or whatever. It helps you plan your journeys. It helps me plan my journeys anyway. But there are 2 copies I've got in front of me, as I said. One is May 2017 and the other one is April 2017. And there are 2 articles in the network section here that are really interesting. So the first one is TfL seeking 3.6 billion for rail improvements to cope with capital's population boom. It's on page 88 of the May 2017 edition. And it's a little article. It's not that long actually, but it's talking about how Transport for London has compiled a wish list of possible improvements to rail services aimed at coping with the capital's rapidly growing population. 3.6 billion is a lot of money in order for this to happen, but when you see where it's being spent, you can see that they are really trying to improve in the sort of the southeast area of London, which is what the other article covers as well. But this one, 1.2 billion goes towards London Overground, increasing the capacity on the London Overground services. There is also some money going towards preparatory work for Crossrail 2, quadrupling the Lee Valley line, platform lengthening schemes to allow longer trains on various lines, and the conversion of inner suburban services on Great Northern, South Central and South Eastern routes to metro style operation. Now that's really interesting for me, because I live on the Great Northern line, coming out of King's Cross up through Hertfordshire and onwards up the East Coast main line. So whenever I go to London, I get a train on Great Northern from my local station. So that's really interesting that they're considering upgrading that to a metro style operation. They don't fully go into detail about what that entails, but my thinking would be something either along the lines of what they're currently doing with TfL Rail, getting ready for Crossrail, or what they're going to do with London Overground, which is run more regular services using pretty standard length trains but more regularly, so that the service capacity is increased. Either way, that would be good. I do get fed up of having to stand on trains going into King's Cross at times. I'm always, again, because I'm aware of when's good and when's not good to get on trains. Going to London is always difficult, because normally when I'm going to London I have to be somewhere at a certain time, so you just have to get the train that's available. Coming home it's a lot more relaxed, so I'm able to get quieter trains. But yeah, it can be a bit of a headache at times to make sure you're on the right train at the right time, but what can you do? So more money is also going towards 400 million upgrade to the Brighton main line. There was an article recently that someone was suggesting instead of building High Speed 2, they should actually build a new Brighton main line to connect up with towns that are currently not served by the existing Brighton main line. I think that was not... I mean, it wasn't a terrible idea, it just wasn't a great idea. One of the reasons that the Great Central Railway shut was because it was deemed surplus to requirements, given the fact that the line out of Marylebone now does go up as far as Birmingham. That was part of the Great Central line, but also the line out of St Pancras goes up the same direction towards Leicester, Nottingham, Derby, and also the West Coast main line goes up the other side. So the Great Central main line was shut for that reason, because it was duplicate routes. I kind of think that would be the same case with this new Brighton main line. It would be duplicate routes. There's no point. You might as well increase capacity on the existing line rather than spend £300 million, £400 million building a brand new line. But this also says there's going to be new platforms at East Croydon and remodeled junctions in the East Croydon area. That would be good, because the fast line going through East Croydon towards London Victoria at the moment, platform 1, I think it's a maximum speed of 30 miles an hour, which, yeah, the train stops there most of the time, but 30 miles an hour on a high speed line or a fast line is ridiculous, because it's a real sharp curve So I think one of the plans is to change the shape of that platform so that it's a bit straighter. That would certainly be what I would do if I was given the money. 3.6 billion figure also includes the cost of additional rolling stock to lengthen trains and increase frequencies to reduce overcrowding, which is expected to grow as the city's population climbs towards 10 million people. That is a lot of people. So that's that article. Apart from that, there wasn't really that much related to what I'm talking about now in that magazine. But this one, the April 2017 edition, there's an article here, Network Rail Options to Cope with Huge Growth in the Southeast. And there's an article itself, but then there's a little box next to the article that has sort of a breakdown as to what these options are. So the options are as following. Lengthening high-speed South London Metro and Kent commuter peak time trains to 12 cars where possible and where demand requires it. Platform extensions to facilitate longer trains, including at Woolwich Dockyard and minor work at Waterloo East. Creating a link between High Speed 1 and the Marshalink route to facilitate faster trains to Hastings and Rye. This could include an electrification scheme or bi-mode trains that can run under diesel or electric power. Increasing capacity at Cannon Street by creating a siding to stable trains. This would allow for an extra train in the high peak hour, which is between 8 and 9 in the morning. Crowding relief schemes at Lewisham, Peckham Rye and Denmark Hill stations to improve the passenger experience. New signalling systems, including traffic management technology, to maximise train performance on busy sections where capacity is constrained, such as Orpington to London. Traffic management is similar to air traffic control and is able to adapt in real time to minimise disruption. That last one's quite interesting, because I was talking last time about how trains on other operators can break down and South Eastern get the blame. This sounds like a solution to that kind of problem. It will adapt in real time to situations that are happening in order to be able to redirect trains to minimise the disruption caused by those breakdowns. But some of these are really interesting. So the one that really stands out for me is the creating a link between High Speed 1 and the Marshalink route. I'm not 100% sure exactly which one the Marshalink route is. I have a fair idea, especially as it mentions Hastings and Rye, so I'm assuming it goes to Hastings and Rye. But I read somewhere, it might have been in this magazine as well, but a different edition, there was plans to link Ebbsfleet International to Gravesend Station. No, that's already been done. What's the other one? Towards Dartford, I think, was the route chosen, so that high-speed trains can actually run in the opposite direction. So they come off. If you go to Ebbsfleet International, you've got the 4 main platforms, 2 Eurostar, 2 Javelin, but then you've got the 2 extra platforms, 5 and 6, which sort of come out at an angle. They connect up with the third rail network and run through Gravesend and down towards Faversham, Gillingham, Rochester, that kind of way. First stop is Gravesend, I believe, after that bit. But there was plans to link it in the other direction, so it forms a triangular junction. And then you'd be able to run trains down the other way too, through Ebbsfleet. That's the one, through Ebbsfleet Station. Now that one really stands out to me because I do feel like we have this really cool high-speed line in the southeast of England. And whenever I go past the high-speed line, wherever it is I might be, whether I'm coming into King's Cross and you go under the bridge just before tunnel number 1, I believe it's called, Stratford West. I never see a train on the line there. If I'm driving across the Dartford crossing, I never see a train on the line there. Wherever I go and I see High Speed 1, even if I'm driving along the M2A2, right next to High Speed 1, never see a train. Where are they? We have this high speed line. Where are all the trains? So I think it would be really good if they actually utilised that, ran more trains on that section instead, and then they can release paths on the third rail line. So I think that one is one that should definitely be looked into. Bi-mode I'm never a fan of. I don't like the idea of half diesel, half electric on high speed lines. I think it'll work really well on the Great Western Main Line because there are sections where there's no electrification. But in other parts, I feel like it needs... Like if there's electrified track there, use an electric train. Don't run a bi-mode. It just doesn't compute with me. It doesn't feel right. So there's short-term options that I just read there. There are 4 long-term options as well. In fact, this is the one. The third one on the list. So the first one is rebuilding Charing Cross Station to allow for more and longer trains to terminate there, potentially extending the platforms across the Thames. So basically doing a Blackfriars. to Charing Cross. That's an interesting one. I think that would work out quite nicely. I've always thought of trains going in and out of Charing Cross as being quite long. I think they're 8 car. I think the plan would be to extend them to 12 car. Second one is provide additional tracks on the route into Victoria to allow more and longer trains to terminate there. Again, I always used to think the trains in and out of Victoria are quite long. But same with Charing Cross. I believe they're only 8 car and not 12 car. Create a southern link from Ebbsfleet International via Forcombe to stations on the Bromley South route. That's the one that I was kind of talking about. So at the moment the track goes up north and then connects up with the line there. So they're talking about creating a southern link, so it comes around to the south and links up to the Bromley South route, which again I'm not 100% sure. I'm imagining it goes towards Bromley, but there you go. And creating a link between Faversham and Ashford, a route poorly served by road. That kind of links in again with connecting High Speed 1 to the existing routes going towards Faversham. There is already a line that goes from High Speed 1 to Faversham. It's the one I just said. It goes via Rochester, Strood, Gillingham, that kind of way. This will be creating an alternative, so it's almost like from Faversham back down to Ashford. But it's the rebuilding of the stations that really caught my interest. Extending the platforms to fit 12 car trains. At the moment London Bridge is going to be rebuilt, or is in the process of being rebuilt. There's a new concourse opened. Again, I found it interesting that concourse was actually built by the same group that built the Shard. It was part of the deal to build the Shard. They worked with Network Rail to rebuild parts of London Bridge. So that's cool. I like it when civil engineering ties in with rail engineering, although that kind of does fall under civil engineering. But you know what I mean, where a company that's built a building like the Shard also helps to build the station that serves the Shard, because London Bridge is the 3rd busiest station in the country, I think I read, or was it the 5th? Might have been the 5th. Let me check that again. I had a web page open earlier and I was reading about it. But most of the rebuilding of London Bridge actually falls under the Thameslink programme. I thought it was mostly to do with the trains coming in and out of Charing Cross, Cannon Street and around that way, but it's actually mostly being done as part of the Thameslink programme. The changes we are making allow us to introduce more Thameslink trains every day. Up to 18 trains an hour through London Bridge, which is quite a lot of trains, I think you'll find. So currently there are, or at least when at the start of building, there were 9 terminus platforms at London Bridge and 5 through platforms. To my knowledge, they might have changed this, but the plans I've read before they started, they're flipping that around. So there will be 9 through platforms and 5 terminus platforms. I believe they're also reconsidering introducing the service between London Bridge and Victoria. It used to be quite a well-used service, and they took it out of service, I think, because London Overground took over some of the stations and the track. But now they're considering bringing it back again. London Bridge is the 4th busiest station in the country. 56 million passengers each year use London Bridge. It's also one of the busiest underground stations on the network. The Jubilee line and the Northern line both serve London Bridge. And I always get confused with London Bridge as to its exact geography, because I always have it in my head that it goes up towards the river, but in fact it runs parallel to the river. And I'm looking at a picture of it right now, so you can't see what I'm looking at unless you, by some weird coincidence, happen to be on the same page that I'm on. But yeah, it's a really, that's my phone. It's a really interesting project that's going on at London Bridge, and it seems to be the precursor to a lot of rebuilding work along stations within the London area. Cannon Street, Charing Cross, Victoria, Waterloo East was also mentioned on here, and then minor works at places like Woolwich Dockyard. So there's a lot going on, a lot of investment going into the stations around London, and that is something that I want to try and replicate on this map as well. We've kind of done it already in this episode. We rebuilt St Michael. I'm going to be rebuilding parts of St Peter. You can see actually here, after running the train from St Michael out into the country, I realised that the trains from St Peter still aren't running out into the country, so I decided to do that as well. And I think that's it for this episode, guys. I'm just looking. Yeah, I think that's it for this episode, guys. That's everything I wanted to talk about. That's everything I wanted to do. I'm just going to tick off the to-do list. There we go. One thing I was going to ask you guys actually is, I have my to-do list. Do you want to see my to-do list? I'll make it so that you can't actually edit it, you can only view it. But I think if people want to see what's coming up in upcoming episodes before they decide whether or not they want to comment new ideas, I think that might be quite useful. So let me know if you want me to upload the to-do list as well. I'll put a link to it in the description of every video from here on. But I am going to end the episode here, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes, and also go check out the name suggestions list as well. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.